Hi guys, welcome to class. So today's topic comes out of chapter 20, and our lecture is going to be dealing with Hatha Yoga. When we look at what Hatha Yoga represents, yoga itself is just a Sanskrit word that means the union of two or more items. The ha and the tha, ha is as a prefix is represents or means sun, and tha means moon. So conceptually, Hatha Yoga then translate into the union of mind and body and spirit. It's trying to encourage and develop the wholeness of life and the balance of forces. And it's a practice that dates back thousands of years. We see in our textbook that Hatha Yoga dates back more than 2,000 years from the book of the Yoga Sutras. But Patanjali was credited or is credited by most as the founder of yoga because he consolidated and then codified all of the asanas with the purpose of trying to help everyone that wants to be a practitioner, that wants to explore and experiment with this, allow them to help develop that mind and body and spirit balance. Hatha yoga was often for a long time considered pretty counterculture activity in America, but it's become much more accepted and much more mainstream. I like this cartoon that is in your textbook that yoga helps to improve your flexibility, but it certainly makes no promises about what what you're going to be able to do. The pranayama, or the breath of life, is encouraged by first starting off with just good diaphragmatic breathing. So this is a practice that we've engaged in multiple times and seen show up in pretty much every form of every form of stress reduction technique that we've looked at so far. We also know that as muscles are stretched, air is drawn into the lungs and into the body. And we want to, in all aspects of yoga and all practices of yoga, we're working to ensure that we are breathing really comfortably, really slow and deep. Now, an intentional component of Hatha Yoga that's very important from a stress reduction technique is that we're really conscious about our stretching. We're really thoughtful and aware of the perception or the feeling of stretch and what that feels like, how we initiate that. So we're really trying to reinforce that connection between your conscious control of your autonomic nervous system and its responses. We're really working to elicit or develop more control over that autonomic nervous system. Now, balance, as you have seen in just a few slides already, is a really important component when we talk about Hatha Yoga and its philosophy and what it's working to encourage. From a physical standpoint, that means that stretches should always be partnered with each other to encourage freedom and balance on each side of the body. So if you're doing an activity that is working primarily one side of the body, you certainly should be repeating that on the opposite side of the body to bring balance. It is also accurate to say that our modern life really encourages us towards certain body postures, as you see illustrated in that picture that's in the bottom right there. There are areas of our own body that very frequently become less mobile, that lose most of their strength, and there are other areas of our body that become much more over tight. So you can see that if you think about your posture while you're sitting at a desk, while you're working on homework, while you're watching videos, while you're listening to lectures or participating in class, while you're driving a car, all of those, including sleeping sort of in the fetal position if you're a side sleeper, all of those encourage your body to be in a certain posture. And across years, that if you're not intentional about working on creating fluid ability and stretching all of those areas, that your body gets more and more of that hunched sort of posture, and pain and damage can take place because of it. Back pain is actually one of the most common reasons people go to see the doctor. Over 80% of adults report having experienced back pain. And I hope that you are or remain in the 20%. But the chances are really high that you're going to be experiencing back pain. And part of that could be because of immobility. So if we increase our own body's ability to move, and we're proactive about that, then we are essentially prehabbing instead of rehabbing injuries. So we're intentionally doing activities to work to avoid an injury rather than intentionally having to work to try to overcome an injury. So you can see within that other illustration on the right there, there's a number of different reasons why upper back pain can exist. And I don't think this is an exhaustive list by any means, but this is a good common starting point for a lot of actions. So if you see yourself consistently engaging in these type of activities, then thinking about your control within those activities and thinking about how to prehab, whether stretching is an important aspect that's going to be important, that's going to be valuable to you or not, is really a good idea. Hatha Yoga has demonstrated a number of both physiological and psychological benefits. So this is a practice that is participated in by millions of people across the world every day. And I think maybe it's one that you would enjoy or find benefit from. Some of the benefits you could be finding are the ability to decrease stress levels, which is why it's been included within our own class content. Definitely there are forms of yoga that are going to help to increase strength. And I think pretty much any form of yoga that's practiced consistently is going to help to increase isometric strength, meaning that the strength of those muscles when they're not either lengthening or shortening. Increasing flexibility is a primary means by which many people enter into the practice of Hatha Yoga. It's an activity that I have engaged in for about 3 years. I did it because I could tell my own flexibility was creating both some pain and the risk for significantly more pain. And I had not developed for myself a good practice of stretching. So finding a class that on Hatha Yoga was an outstanding way for me to stay accountable to making sure that I was working on that multiple times a day, or multiple times a week, rather. So increasing flexibility is definitely something that is capable if you are consistently engaging with Hatha Yoga. Decreases in blood pressure is another physiological outcome that has been demonstrated. From a psychological standpoint, there are indications that it helps to decrease signs of depression, that it can help to cope with breast cancer. It's not going to cure breast cancer, but it can help from the psychological side and the emotional side in helping to cope with breast cancer, and may even be effective as an assistive component to overcoming addiction. Now, there's a number of different poses or asanas that are frequently used. The salute to the sun is a very symbolic series of asanas. So as the wide variety of different poses are utilized, if you are familiar with CrossFit as a contemporary example, there's all kinds of different physical exercises a person could be engaged in. CrossFit as a modern practice often aggregates or puts together certain motions or certain lifts, certain activities, and then gives that series of lifts or that series of activities a name. Same concept here with the salute to the sun. It has taken a series of asanas, or this is historically a very traditional series of asanas that are done in order. That is oftentimes a beginning or starting spot for beginners within Hatha Yoga. and it's often the beginning or the end part of each yoga session. So let me introduce you to the names of some of the different positions that are out there. You can look into your textbook, you can look online and find an incredibly wide variety of other poses. We can do these traditional poses, either in a standing or a sitting position. So you may be experiencing the mountain pose, the cobra pose, or the spinal twist. And these represent or do represent that salute to the sun progression or combination. At the very end of each Hatha Yoga session, it is very traditional to end with the Shavasana. And it's typically the very last pose that you participate in. You can see from the posture, it's a lion on your back and trying to initiate an absolute full relaxation and slow and deep breathing. And that we typically end each class period, or you typically end each yoga session in this particular pose. And as you can see from the thing, oftentimes it's many people's favorites. So Hatha Yoga has been shown to decrease stress levels and boost immune system response. Well, that means then that it's possible that this is going to be an aid, giving you a multitude of health benefits if you consistently practice or consistently engage within Hatha Yoga. How do we do it? Like, what are we going to be engaged in, or what are some recommendations for it to be more successful for you? The first is going to be try not to do this on a full stomach. The other is to be comfortable. Wear clothing that you are comfortable moving in. And find a quiet place and space where you don't feel like you are encountering many distractions, and you don't feel like you are being watched or judged or anything. That you just feel comfortable, both physically and emotionally. A lot of people choose to engage with Hatha Yoga in the morning and start the day off with it, and just as if it's an initiation to their day and starting their day off right. That may or may not fit well with your own schedule or preferences. It's not a requirement. It just is one common practice. For myself, since I take it as a part of a class, it actually ends up being quite late in the day for me most of the time I've been able to sign up. As you explore and experiment with Hatha Yoga, concentrate on the posture, concentrate on maintaining the proper form throughout each asana. And breathing is always something that is encouraged, specifically encouraged. That diaphragmatic, nice and slow and steady and relaxed breathing is a very big component of Hatha Yoga. Outside of just the yoga session itself, your diet and making sure that you're engaging within a healthy and healthful diet is an important part of balance in your life. It is easy at times, or at least I found it my own personal experience, to be looking around at others who are participating within a session as well and comparing myself to what their flexibility is and where I'm able to do. And that is highly discouraged. Like, your ego is not meant to be a part of a yoga session. Yoga is not meant to be a contest. It's meant to be your chance to grow and connect and find balance, not to compete. Meditation is a nice complement to yoga. So often the two are practiced together by individuals, not at the same time, but rather by practice together, I mean that they engage in both of these activities and find value in them as a combination. And then there are multiple kinds of classes and multiple ways in which yoga itself is actually practiced, not Hatha Yoga. there's multiple ways in which yoga is practiced. So look for the differences between those classes and look for the one that matches your own interests and abilities and skills and what you're hoping to gain from participation. The three basic kinds of yoga that I think that you can find with that fit underneath the umbrella of Hatha Yoga. Uh, Ashtanga Yoga is going to be the more, I want to say peaceful. I'm not sure that's the right word for this. The less intense form of yoga. It's moving through multiple poses with a focus on your breathing. Power yoga is going to look at much more intense development of muscular power. And Bikram yoga, those asanas are, you might have heard of as hot yoga, is we're moving through those asanas or those poses, but in a very intense and hot environment. So some of those may sound like to you like, oh, I'm interested in that, and others may sound to you like, I'm really not interested in that. So as you keep thinking about adopting this or engaging with this practice, if you want to find guidance, understand that there are very different ways of guiding Hatha Yoga, and that different classes may be either more to your preference or less to your preference, and you should keep seeking out what's more to your preference. Kelly Andrews is a pretty renowned yoga instructor. I don't know that. Anyway, Kelly Andrews, I appreciate the perspective that she always encourages and shares. And that is that you're never going to get any of the asanas perfect. And it's not even really congruent with what yoga traditions teach. We're looking for balance and we're looking for constant improvement. And perfection is not something that you can achieve. And I think that fits well with my Christian perspective as well, that perfection is not something that as a human in a broken world that I can achieve. Not perfection in my life, not perfection in my actions. So I want to continue to pursue growth and development and movement towards good. But I don't want to hold myself to an expectation of perfection. The other thing that she really encourages is don't give your power away. Don't look at a yoga instructor or look at other people in the class and compare yourself to them. And instead, you just have to be you and recognize that as you go through life, there will be different phases and different parts of life where your body actually responds differently. And shouldn't be comparing ourselves against others. We should simply be looking for growth and improvement within ourselves. And I think that also fits with my Christian worldview, in that my relationship with Christ is one where I'm continually working to improve and continually looking to find balance and continually looking to demonstrate myself and represent myself as a strong reflection of Christ as I can at that moment. But I also am very different from each person around me. God created each of us with unique gifts and unique skills, unique abilities, unique perspectives, unique knowledge. That means that I shouldn't compare myself against others. Doesn't mean that I don't, but it certainly is a aspect that I continue to try to grow for myself. So here are a variety of positions that you can be practicing at most of the locations that you're at, with so much of your life being in a sitting state, whether this be between classes, whether this be when you get into your car or other aspects. You're sitting at lunch tables or dinner tables or on the couch or whatever, or on your dorm room bed, whatever it may be. these are a variety of different stretches that you could engage in all of those settings. So first we start off with a wrist and a finger stretch. We're going to be extending our hands out the fullest that we can, feeling that tension on both sides, trying to get our wrists and our fingers to get to both the fullest and greatest extent of stretch that we can. You'd be moving your wrist both up and down and side and side. And in each case, as you're working at extending those fingers as wide as they possibly can as well, that we're just feeling for that stretch and feeling for that motion and that perception, and trying to increase that motion each time we engage in these. A chair raised hand pose, we're going to be taking one palm and facing it up, taking the other hand then and placing it over the fingers of that palm, reaching up so that we're getting our elbows straight. We're trying to bring those arms near or even touching our ears. And then as we get into that full and upright and stretched position with our shoulders, and we're also going to allow for a little bit of down pressure. So that hand with the palm facing up, we're going to pull down just slightly on our fingers to feel stretched there in the forearm as well. So we're feeling, and then we'll switch sides. Remember, we're looking for balance. So we're going to make sure that after we've done this for 15 seconds or so on one side, that we switch our hand position so our other hand and other forearm get the same benefit of the stretch. Seated crescent moon pose. Now we're going to interlace our fingers. So we're going, and now keeping our hands as close or our arms as close to our ears as we can, trying to keep our elbows near straight, if not straight. That inside elbow is likely to bend a little bit more. The outside or the top elbow is likely to stay straight for a longer duration. And then now the goal is we're going to start to feel a stretch into the upper part of our back, and we're trying to keep our hips and our feet and our knees all in that stable and neutral position, but lean over one side and then the other, and we're holding each one for 15 seconds or so. So we don't just stretch to one side and then release and then move over to the other side. We want to hold that stretch position. Remember, we're thinking about what area am I stretching? How do I relax and release that area so it can stretch just a little bit more? I'm breathing nice and deep and using that diaphragmatic breathing. I need time for all of that intentionality to focus in on the areas that I'm trying to stretch and to relax. The cow face arms, you can recognize here, we're going to try to interlock our fingers behind our back. I am not able to do this at the moment. So in my case, I am reaching behind my back with both arms and working to get closer and closer to where I can at some point, perhaps be able to grip my arms or my fingers together. And we'll switch sides on that particular stretch as well. So the seated twist, I'm keeping my hips, my knees, my ankles all in that neutral position. And now I'm going to twist, moving at my shoulders and allowing my neck to simply follow that. I'm not twisting so much at the neck that I'm trying to get way out of position. I'm going to try to twist at the shoulders first, get to the furthest position I can, hold that for 10 seconds or more. Then I'm going to move my neck to see what the full range it has and add in another 5 to 7 seconds, holding in that direction. You can see that I may be putting my hand on my opposite knee, but I'm not using that as a bracing point, and I'm not using that to pull or to push. That's just there as resting. It's not pushing or pulling. And I'll switch to the other side. The chair pigeon pose, I'm going to be working to bring my ankle up to rest on my opposing knee. You can see that the illustration has the individual with their hand on that elevated knee, and you can be allowing for a little bit of down pressure there. This time my hand is pushing just a little bit to the point where I am experiencing a stretch, but I'm not experiencing pain or strong discomfort. I can also lean into that. So you can see her torso is leaning forward once you've gotten a stretch there at the knee. And remember that deep breathing, slow and steady from your diaphragm. And then we'll switch sides. Lastly, out of this individual progression, I have a sit and stand chair pose. So in this particular one, I'm going to be raising myself up off of my chair, bringing my bottom up off of the chair, keeping my hands out straight in front of me. This is mimicking in a lot of ways a squat motion if you are familiar with resistance training. But in this particular pose, I am not going to the point where I stand all the way up. I'm elevating myself up off of the chair, but I'm only elevating about the length of a fist. So if I had my own hand and I was making a fist, as I put that underneath the space between the bottom and the chair, that's about how high I want to hold myself up. And I'm going to hold myself in this position, working on keeping my balance. So that brings us to the end of our introduction to Hatha Yoga. I hope that you find some value in this particular practice if you choose to experiment with it. It is one that I engage in as often as it fits within my schedule. I will sign up for local classes so that I have accountability and can help work on stretching. And I do feel like it encourages and helps me to engage in stress reduction in a way that I had not done in past years. So you can experiment with it too if you're interested. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.